I'm Melline Henderson, 31, an accountant who lives for color-coded spreadsheets and never misses a single HOA dues deadline. I'm the woman who remembers every neighbor's preferred coffee order for the annual block party. The one who quietly updates the community calendar so no one forgets trash day or the quarterly landscaping inspection. I'm the reliable neighbor, the planner, the invisible glue that keeps Willow Creek Estates running smoothly on paper. At least that's exactly what the HOA board wanted me to stay. The second I spotted that cheap metal folding chair shoved behind a decorative pillar right next to the swinging kitchen doors at the Clubhouse reception, I knew this was deliberate public humiliation wrapped in a pastel tablecloth. But what Karen Whitaker and her little empire of clipboard warriors never realized was that I owned 30% of the very building they were strutting around in, and their entire comfortable little suburban kingdom was about to learn what happens when the quiet one finally speaks up. It wasn't always this toxic. When I first moved into Willow Creek 5 years ago, the neighborhood looked like the American dream on a postcard. Perfectly manicured lawns, white picket fences that somehow stayed white, and kids riding bikes without a care. The Homeowners Association promised order and property values. What it delivered was Karen Whitaker, president for life, ruling with an iron fist hidden behind pearls and passive-aggressive emails. Karen spoke in that syrupy, polite tone at every meeting, the one that sounded like concern for the community but really meant do it my way or get fined into oblivion. Her rules were legendary. Grass could not exceed 2 inches or you get a $50 citation. No holiday lights after January 15th, even if your kids begged. American flags had to be exactly 3 feet by 5 feet and taken down at sunset or else. Parking your own car in your own driveway at the wrong angle triggered an immediate warning. And God forbid you painted your front door anything but the approved willow beige shade. Karen enforced every single one with the glee of someone who had finally found meaning in life after her kids left home. Her son Colin was the golden boy of Willow Creek, the way some neighborhoods worship quarterbacks. 3 years younger than me. Taller, louder, always the first to speak at meetings. When he announced at 28 that he was finishing medical school and matching into a prestigious residency program, Karen's eyes filled with actual tears right there in the Clubhouse auditorium. A doctor in our community, she had gushed into the microphone, voice cracking with manufactured pride while the rest of us clapped like trained seals. I had stood in the back row that day, the same row where non-board residents were always directed, and felt the familiar sting of being background noise. My own accounting degree from UMass had earned me a polite nod from Karen once. That's practical, I suppose. She had said exactly the way my own mother used to. Practical, invisible, necessary, but never celebrated. The pattern started small and snowballed. In 2017, Colin needed $8,000 fast because his car died right before clinical rotations. He showed up at my door with that boyish grin. Coffee in hand from the shop I always recommended. Just temporary. Melline, Mom and Dad are tapped out with a new roof, and I can't miss rotations. I wrote the check that afternoon. Pay me back when you can, I told him. He hugged me. Called me the best neighbor ever. The money never came back. When I gently reminded him a year later, he looked confused, then irritated. Come on, it's med school. I thought that was a gift. Karen sided with him instantly at the next board meeting. Melline, don't be petty. Colin's doing something important for all of us. You're just handling the books. The implication hung in the air like cheap air freshener. My spreadsheets didn't matter. His stethoscope did. By 2019, I had quietly bought the community a brand new industrial grill for the 4th of July barbecue after the old one leaked grease for months. I spent my own weekend researching models, took a personal day to oversee installation, and even stocked it with a fancy marinade Karen liked. That night, Colin arrived late with a bottle of champagne and announced his residency match. The grill was forgotten in 5 seconds. Karen cried. The board toasted. I quietly loaded dirty plates into the new trash system. No one thanked me for all the fireworks exploded overhead. Then Colin met Brooke Sullivan, daughter of some big-shot surgeon and old-money Boston family. Brooke, with her perfect blonde bob and tennis-toned arms, worked in marketing at a firm her father's golf buddy owned. She looked at me the first time we met like I was a mildly interesting spreadsheet. An accountant? How grounding, she said, smile never reaching her eyes. I suppose every neighborhood needs someone practical. At the 2021 block party, I brought a date. Stephen, a kind software engineer I'd been seeing. The board barely acknowledged him. Karen asked him one question about computer things before turning back to Colin and Brooke's stories about their Amalfi Coast trip. 3 glasses of Chardonnay in. Brooke leaned over while Stephen was in the bathroom and whispered loud enough for half the table. Did you pay him to come with you? She laughed like we were sharing a joke. I broke up with Stephen a week later. Not because of her words, but because I refused to drag anyone I cared about into Willow Creek's special brand of suburban poison. In March 2023, I missed the annual HOA spring mixer because of food poisoning. I texted Karen politely. Her reply still lives in my phone. You're overreacting. Not everything is about you. Meline, Colin worked hard to get here. Be supportive. I hadn't even mentioned Colin. The mixer was supposedly to celebrate the new park benches I had funded, but it became another showcase for Colin and Brooke's perfect life. The real turning point came in June 2023. Through a clerical error at the HOA attorney's office, I received a copy of an amendment to the community reserve bylaws. It quietly removed my name from any future voting rights or special access privileges I had earned as an early investor. When I confronted Karen in her home, her response was chillingly casual. You're self-sufficient. Meline, Colin needs the visibility more with the wedding coming up. It's not like you're struggling. She was right. I wasn't struggling. But that wasn't the point. That night, I opened a secure folder on my laptop labeled Plan M. Inside were documents, spreadsheets, and a 5-year timeline I had been building in silence. They had made me the scapegoat, the afterthought, the perpetual supporting character in the Colin Whitaker show. What they didn't know was that my accounting degree hadn't just paid my mortgage. It had let me launch Henderson Strategic Advisors on the side, while everyone thought I was just doing taxes at Evergreen Financial. 3 years earlier, my strategies had saved a Fortune 100 executive $17 million in legal tax maneuvers. His gratitude translated into investment opportunities closed to normal people. One of those was a 30% stake in Willow Creek Properties, LLC, the private company that actually owned the Clubhouse the HOA leased for all its events. My name appeared nowhere in public records, just buried in LLC filings that no one ever read closely. I had built a portfolio worth over $4 million by 31. Owned my house outright, had offshore accounts, and a network of clients who respected my discretion. All while Karen and the board thought I was just another dues-paying drone. Colin's wedding to Brooke was booked for July 8th at the Clubhouse. When the request came through my silent partner, I said nothing. Approved the family discount they finessed. Even waived the usual premium staffing fees. I RSVP'd yes and arrived precisely on time, wearing a Taylor Navy cocktail dress that cost more than Brooke's bridal shower venue combined. The new coordinator, Jessica, didn't know my connection. She checked her iPad. Henderson, Meline. Oh, you're at a special seating arrangement. She led me past the elegant round tables, past the family section where cousins and plus ones laughed, past every decent spot in the ballroom, straight to a metal folding chair partially hidden behind a pillar next to the kitchen doors. I'm sorry, Jessica whispered. Uncomfortable. Mrs. Whitaker specified out of the way. No photos either. I sat down, back straight, expression neutral. Servers rushed past, giving apologetic glances. From my spot, I could see everything. No one saw me. I watched Karen greeting guests like royalty. Colin accepting congratulations in his tux. Brooke sparkling in designer silk. Not one of them glanced my way. I stayed through the ceremony, the first dances, the toasts where Karen cried about her only son finding happiness. I ate rubbery chicken balanced on my knees while kitchen staff apologized for bumping me. At 9:17, I placed my napkin on the chair and walked out through the kitchen. No one noticed. No one called after me. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and gave myself exactly 5 minutes of tears. Not sadness. Clarity. Finality. That night, I moved Plan M from contingency to active. First, I pulled every security camera feed from the clubhouse. As part owner, I had full system access. I compiled clips, Brooke pointing at my assigned spot and laughing with her mother, Colin nodding along while checking his watch, Karen herself approving the seating chart during setup and saying nothing. I retrieved the email chain between Brooke and the wedding team, put Meline by the trash area or something. No photos. She'll bring down the aesthetic. I secured guest placement spreadsheets, vendor contracts, billing records. I contacted Zara, a former board member who had quit after Karen belittled her one too many times. Zara now wrote for a local lifestyle blog and was very interested in the story I had. Most important, I called Whitfield Legal Group and spoke with Patricia Whitfield herself about the bylaws amendment. Turns out the document was never properly notarized. Under Massachusetts law, it was invalid. More critically, Karen had violated the original charter by attempting to strip my earned privileges without notifying all investors. This is actionable. MS. Henderson, Patricia said gravely. I moved with the same precision that had built my hidden empire. By July 30th, exactly 22 days after the wedding, everything was ready. I invited the entire Whitaker inner circle to brunch at the Blue Oak Bistro, another establishment where I held a silent minority stake. I reserved the private dining room with perfect acoustics, paid in advance, and arrived early in a crisp white suit tailored to perfection. Hair fresh, makeup flawless. I looked like money. I looked like power. I looked like someone you would never stick by the kitchen doors. They arrived together, Karen, her husband Richard, who sat on the board, Colin, and Brooke. Their laughter died the moment they saw me. Not because they sensed danger, but because they rarely saw me looking this commanding. Meline, Karen said, recovering with her trademark syrupy smile. You look different. New haircut. Richard offered a weak nod. Colin already scanned the menu. Brooke's eyes flicked over my outfit, eyebrows rising at the obvious cost. We ordered mimosas. Made small talk. I asked about their ST. Bart's honeymoon. They asked nothing about my life. Same dynamic for years. But today was the last time. After appetizers, I placed a folder on the table and withdrew the printed deed to Willow Creek Properties LLC with ownership percentages highlighted. Did everyone enjoy the wedding venue? I asked lightly. It was perfect, Karen gushed. Though expensive, even with the discount Brooke managed through her connections. That wasn't her connections, I said calmly. I slid the deed across. That was my partner giving a courtesy discount on my authority. They stared. Colin understood first. Wait, you're the Henderson on the paperwork. 30% ownership, I confirmed. Which means I was the one who approved the folding chairs. Just not for myself. Brooke's voice cracked. That's impossible. You're an accountant at some firm. You couldn't afford. I'm the founding partner of Henderson Strategic Advisors. I corrected. Evergreen is just where I keep my health insurance. My net worth is approximately 15 times what you and Colin have combined. I removed more papers, screenshots of Brooke's emails calling me the boring neighbor, security footage stills, the invalid bylaws amendment, and Patricia Whitfield's letter outlining every legal violation. Karen, Richard, I continued, this amendment stripping my privileges from the community charter is invalid. The attorney you used made procedural errors. but more than that, it violates the original investor agreement that names early contributors as equal participants. Karen's face went pale. We didn't know. Honey, you should have told us about your business. Why would I? I asked genuinely. When have any of you ever shown interest in my life? When have you asked about my career, my goals, my achievements, instead of just using me for spreadsheets and loans? Brooke pushed the papers away. This is slander. It's not slander if it's true and documented, I replied. And it's all documented. Brooke, every email where you called me the invisible one. Every text to Colin about hiding me from important guests. Every conversation with the coordinator about putting me by the trash area. Colin looked physically ill. Meline, I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, I knew Brooke wanted you separate, but I didn't realize the kitchen thing until I saw you there. And yet you said nothing. I pointed out. Did nothing. Just like you've done nothing about the $8,000 you borrowed and never repaid. Just like you've done nothing every time Brooke belittled me. Just like you did nothing when Karen decided I didn't deserve equal privileges anymore. To my surprise, my neighbor Lacey, who I had quietly invited midway through, spoke up from the doorway. Meline, you've always been the quiet storm. This is magnificent. Behind her were 3 more longtime residents and my friend Sophia, all of whom had watched years of my mistreatment at board meetings. All of whom had received my discreet invitations to join this brunch. What is this? Richard demanded. This is a reckoning, I said, and it's just beginning. I explained in clear, unemotional terms what happened next. First, I was suing to restore my full privileges in the community charter with interest, paperwork already filed. Second, a carefully selected set of wedding photos highlighting my folding chair accommodations along with Brooke's emails would appear in Zara's lifestyle blog piece on wedding etiquette disasters. That's a breach of privacy, Brooke gasped. Actually, the Clubhouse lease terms you signed grant the property owners rights to all photos for promotional use, I explained. As an owner, I'm exercising that. Don't worry. Faces blurred. Names not used directly. But people will know. Colin put his head in his hands. Why are you doing this? Meline, the question almost made me laugh. Why? Because for 5 years in this neighborhood, I've been treated as an afterthought. I've been the reliable one, the supportive one, the invisible one. I watched you all take while I gave and gave. I've smiled through the insults, the dismissals, the clear message that my contributions matter less. And I've had enough. My voice never rose, never shook. This wasn't emotion. This was business. You have a choice, I continued. Fight me, and I'll use every resource I have. And as I've shown, those resources are considerable. Make this public and painful. Or acknowledge the harm. Make amends. And we move forward with new boundaries. Karen whispered, You can't be serious. I've never been more serious, I replied. The lawsuit proceeds regardless. That's non-negotiable. The rest is up to you. I stood, smoothed my immaculate white suit, and looked each of them in the eye. You have 48 hours. My lawyer's contact is in the folder. Brunch is paid for. Enjoy. I walked out. Lacey and Sophia followed. In the bright July sunshine outside the bistro, I took my first deep breath as the author of my own story. The aftermath unfolded better than any spreadsheet could predict. Karen and Richard, facing Patricia Whitfield's methodical legal pressure and the looming embarrassment of their bylaws manipulation being exposed in public filings, settled within 3 months. I received my full restored privileges, $275,000 in back equity plus legal fees and interest. Zara's article, anonymized but crystal clear to anyone in Willow Creek, went viral in Boston suburban circles. Reddit and Facebook groups were less careful. Users quickly connected dots to the Dr. Groom and marketing exec bride who had seated the successful accountant neighbor by the kitchen. Brooke's position at her firm was suspended pending a review of company values. Apparently, her boss's wife had suffered similar seating humiliation years earlier and found the story particularly offensive. Colin called me in September without Brooke. She blames me, he said, exhausted. Says I should have controlled you somehow. We're in counseling. Honestly, I don't know if we'll make it to Christmas. That sounds difficult, I replied, offering neither sympathy nor celebration. I've been thinking about everything you said, he continued, about how we treated you. I didn't see it, or maybe didn't want to. It was easier to go along with what Mom expected. Yes, it was, I agreed. I'm sorry, he said finally. Really? And I want to pay back the $8,000 with interest. It was a start, small but real. Karen and Richard took longer. Richard called in October after the settlement. You made your point, he said gruff. Your mother misses the old neighborhood dynamic. I'm not the one who stopped speaking, I reminded him. No, he admitted after a long pause. We did that. We've done a lot wrong, it seems. My business thrived. The exposure from the charter case brought high-profile clients impressed by both my financial acumen and, ironically, my principles. Henderson's strategic advisors expanded. I hired 2 associates and moved into a sleek office in the financial district. My LinkedIn exploded with new connections. Many messaging saw what you did. Inspiring. Wish I'd had your courage with my own HOA. Surprisingly, Sophia best understood. Over coffee in November, she told me, your grandmother was like you, smart as a whip, practical, underestimated. She built your grandfather's business from nothing while he took credit. She would have been proud. I didn't know that, I said. No one talked about it, Sophia replied. That was always the problem. By Christmas, Colin and Brooke's marriage was failing. Not because of me. I was merely the catalyst exposing cracks already there. He moved into a small apartment and started calling regularly, slowly rebuilding our neighborly relationship from scratch. Karen made awkward overtures, invitations to board meetings, small gifts, careful questions about my work. I accepted some, declined others, keeping firm boundaries while leaving the door cracked for mutual respect instead of old roles. Brooke blocked me everywhere and told anyone who would listen that I was a vindictive spinster who sabotaged her perfect wedding out of jealousy. The irony that her own documented words had caused the real damage seemed lost on her. As for me, I expanded my portfolio to include a small tech startup founded by Stephen. Yes, that's Stephen from years ago. We reconnected professionally first, then personally. He understood now why I ended things before and admired how I reclaimed my narrative. You know what I remember most about that block party? He asked on our 3rd date. How you kept steering the conversation to include me even when no one else would. You were fighting for me then. Now you're fighting for yourself. I'll never forget the look on Karen's face when she realized I had signed off on her son's wedding and her social downfall. But more than that, I'll never forget how it felt to finally be visible. To transform from supporting character to protagonist in my own life. That folding chair by the kitchen became my throne. From it, I surveyed my kingdom and found it lacking. So I built a better one. My name is Melline Henderson. I'm 32 now. I run a thriving financial strategy firm. I own pieces of Willow Creek that Karen never dreamed existed. I still make spreadsheets for fun, and I never forget a slight. And I'm no longer invisible. The community changed too. After Zara's piece, several residents quietly formed a new oversight committee. Absurd rules started getting revised. Grass height stayed, but fines for minor infractions dropped. Holiday lights could stay up until February if you wanted. The flag policy became voluntary. People began speaking up at meetings instead of whispering. Karen resigned as president 2 months after the settlement, citing personal reasons. No one believed her. The board elected a new president, someone who actually listened. Colin finished his residency and started calling me sister again instead of just neighbor. We grab coffee sometimes. He pays his own tab now. Richard and Karen still live in the big house on the hill, but they wave politely when they see me. No more syrupy meetings. No more folding chairs. The dark humor of it all still makes me smile at night. I picture Karen standing in her perfect kitchen, staring at the viral article. Pearls clutched, realizing the woman she fined for a 2-inch grass blade owned the stage she performed on. I imagine Brooke scrolling through comments calling her out for the seating chart she thought no one would see. I laugh, not cruelly, but with the satisfaction of someone who waited years for the plot twist. Social satire at its finest. How a homeowners association meant to protect property values became a miniature dictatorship where one woman's ego decided whose voice mattered. Where the reliable neighbor who kept everything running was treated like background noise until she owned the background itself. Willow Creek taught me that power doesn't come from titles or clipboards. It comes from patience, preparation, and the courage to stop being invisible. I still live here. Paid off my house. Updated the landscaping to the exact shade Karen once hated just because I could. Every morning I walk past the clubhouse and remember the folding chair. I smile because that chair didn't break me. It built me. The neighbors who once looked away now stop to chat. They ask about my business. They thank me for the new park benches. No one calls me practical anymore. They call me Meline. And that's enough. The lesson stays with every resident who hears the story. Never underestimate the quiet one with the spreadsheets. Because while you're busy enforcing 2-inch grass rules, the invisible neighbor might just own the lawn. And when she stands up, the entire neighborhood learns what real power looks like. Justice didn't arrive with screams or drama. It arrived with a folder, a deed, and the quiet click of a white suit walking out of brunch. Karen's empire didn't fall in fire. It crumbled under the weight of its own ridiculous rules. And I, the woman they tried to hide by the kitchen, finally got my seat at the head of the table. Permanently. Looking back, I realized the folding chair was never about seating. It was about control. Karen needed everyone to know their place so she could keep hers. The absurd rules weren't about aesthetics. They were about fear. Fear that if neighbors stopped fearing citations, they might stop fearing her. I stopped fearing her the day I sat in that chair and realized I had been funding her throne the whole time. The dark humor hits hardest when I think about the emails. Brooke typing, "Hide Meline," while sipping champagne at the venue I technically owned. Karen approving it while wearing the pearls I had indirectly paid for through my investments. They laughed. I documented. They partied. I planned. And when the plan executed, it wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was accountability wrapped in spreadsheets and signed with a smile. The community is healthier now. New board members reference the Meline rule in meetings. Never assume the quiet resident isn't the one holding the keys. Kids still ride bikes. Lawns stay green. But the fear is gone. People paint their doors whatever color they want. Flags stay up past sunset if families celebrate late. No one gets fined for breathing wrong. Karen still lives here, but she walks a little smaller. Colin calls on real holidays now, not just when he needs something. Brooke moved out last month. Last I heard, she's telling new neighbors she's the victim. The irony writes itself. As for me, I expanded into commercial property consulting. Clients from other HOAs reach out after hearing the story. They want the same quiet power I built. I teach them how to read the fine print, how to invest silently, how to wait. Patience, I tell them, is the ultimate HOA weapon. Steven and I are serious now. He jokes that our first date was ruined by Karen, but our future won't be. We sit on my porch, sometimes looking at the clubhouse lights, and laugh about the folding chair becoming my origin story. Sophia visits often. She brings stories about my grandmother, and we toast to women who built empires while others took credit. The neighborhood feels like home again. Not because the rules changed, but because the people did. They learned that the reliable one keeping the books might just own the bank. And when she decides enough is enough, the Karen who thought she ruled everything discovers she ruled nothing. I still make spreadsheets. I still pay dues on time. But now I do on my terms. The invisible woman is visible. The supporting character rewrote the script. And Willow Creek Estates, once ruled by fear and folding chairs, is finally free. If there's one lesson, I want every neighbor watching this to remember, it's this. The next time your HOA Karen assigns you the worst seat at the table, smile politely. Document everything. Then remind them who really owns the table. Because the quiet ones aren't quiet forever. We're just waiting for the perfect moment to stand up. And when we do, the entire neighborhood hears it loud and clear. No more hiding by the kitchen. No more invisible. Just one woman in a white suit walking into the light she always deserved. That's the real American dream. Not perfect lawns. Not clipboard power. Just the freedom to be seen. Finally,